Think about the last time you shook someone's hand. You reached out, they reached out, your palms met, you gripped for 1 or 2 seconds, and then you let go. Automatic, instinctive, so natural you barely registered doing it. You've done this thousands of times in your life, at job interviews, at introductions, at meetings, without ever once asking why. Why do humans greet each other by gripping hands? Of all the gestures available to us, a nod, a bow, a wave, why this one? Why the grip? The answer goes back 2,500 years, and it begins not with friendship, not with diplomacy, but with a weapon check. Welcome to Why Is That? The oldest known depictions of handshakes appear in ancient Greece and Mesopotamia, carved into stone reliefs showing kings, warriors, and gods clasping hands to seal agreements. But the gesture is almost certainly older than those carvings, and its original purpose was far more practical than ceremony. In a world where men routinely carried swords, daggers, and knives, meeting a stranger was a genuinely dangerous moment. You had no way of knowing if the person approaching you intended peace or violence. The solution was elegant. Extend your right hand, your weapon hand, open and empty. Force the other person to do the same. Grip their hand and hold it. In a single gesture, you had confirmed 2 things simultaneously. Their hand held no weapon, and their hand was now occupied. If they intended to draw on you, they couldn't. Not quickly, not without breaking the grip first. The handshake wasn't a greeting. It was a mutual disarmament, a moment of enforced vulnerability that both parties entered together. And that vulnerability, shared equally, was the foundation of trust. From ancient Greece, the handshake moved through history as the universal gesture of agreement and peace. Roman soldiers exchanged it to signal non-aggression. Quakers in 17th century England popularized it as a gesture of equality, replacing the bow, which implied social hierarchy. By the 19th century, it had entered the world of business and diplomacy as the standard seal of agreement. By the 20th century, it was simply how humans greeted each other. 2,500 years, one gesture, used by Greek warriors, Roman emperors, medieval knights, Quaker pacifists, Victorian businessmen, and you, yesterday, without thinking about it. Here is what makes this remarkable. The handshake didn't just survive because of tradition, it survived because it works, neurologically, measurably, precisely. Studies from the Weizmann Institute of Science found that after a handshake, people unconsciously bring their hand to their face and smell it, sampling chemical social signals from the other person's skin. Our brains are still running the same ancient threat assessment the Greek warriors used, just silently, just chemically. A firm, well-timed handshake triggers an immediate release of oxytocin, the trust hormone, in both people. It reduces cortisol, the stress hormone. It increases the likelihood of a positive outcome in negotiations by a measurable margin. Brain imaging studies show that first impressions formed during a handshake are locked in within milliseconds and are extraordinarily resistant to being changed by later information. The handshake happens, the brain decides, and almost nothing that comes after fully undoes what those 2 seconds established. The handshake bypasses rational thought entirely. It speaks directly to the oldest, most instinctive part of the human brain, the part that was built to decide in an instant whether the person in front of you meant to keep you alive or end you. The next time you reach out to shake someone's hand, consider what you're actually doing. You are performing a 2,500-year-old ritual of mutual disarmament. You are opening your weapon hand, making yourself briefly vulnerable, and saying without words, "I come in peace, and I trust you enough to prove it." Every empire that used this gesture has collapsed. Every civilization that practiced it has risen and fallen, and the handshake is still here, unchanged, automatic, carried forward across 25 centuries not by law or tradition, but because something deep in human biology understood from the very beginning that trust has to be felt to be real. If this changed how you see the most ordinary gesture in your day, hit like and share this with someone you shook hands with recently. Subscribe to Why Is That? Because the things you do without thinking almost always have the deepest stories. See you in the next one.